Good evening. Happy new moon in Leo. And I find it incredible, when I feel like there's so much energy in the air. I'm like this today. Like my head's gonna wobble off. But with the new moon in Leo and obviously with the solar eclipse as well, I feel like all this big change that we've been feeling, here we are. So I thought, do you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to base the reading on both sides of the barrel. Obviously, I do find with solar eclipses, or any kind of eclipse actually, but there's always like the shadow aspect of it as well. So with the new moon in Leo being this sort of like fiery, it reminds me of like a lion sort of roaring. With that, and then also sort of with the shadow side as well, I just feel like there's a lot going on. So let's base it on the changes that the solar eclipse and the new moon's bringing. Okay, fabulous start, because we've got the Nine of Pentacles on the bottom. So it's like all that hard work that you've been putting in is sort of like nearing the end, and being able to sort of, sit back and enjoy it a little bit, So let's see. I may as well just do it all on camera. The Sun. And the Nine of Cups. You watch the solar eclipse sort of happen now and everything goes dark. Seven of Wands. They keep all come flying out. Right, the one that landed completely on its own all the way over this way was the Magician, so we're going to keep that. Just curious as to why the Seven of Wands is here. And the Moon. So we have got the light and dark aspects. I love it when that happens. Okay. And then we've got the Empress on the bottom. So actually, you're in a very lovely energy today. Nine of Swords underneath and the Seven of Pentacles. Do you know what? It's actually, rather than sitting and stewing over things and allowing those sort of demonic voices in our heads to start churning us, pump your time and your energy into something that's gonna see you right anyway. Right, okay. One memento. So this is very interesting, right? So on one side, you've got the Sun and the Nine of Cups, right? So here we have positivity, new beginnings. It's like rebirth, wish fulfillment, working hard, right? On one side. Then, with the way that I just happened to place them, I always leave them. However, even if, sometimes you're not concentrating on what you're doing, but you start moving things around, I always leave it. So in the middle, we have got the Magician, right? And then on the other side, we've got the Seven of Wands and the Moon. So essentially, right, with the Magician in the middle, to me, what it's sort of saying is that regardless of whether you are in the lighter sort of stages of your life or the darker stages of your life, you've always got the Magician energy in the middle. So having the right tools to be able to manipulate energy to go whichever way you wish. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, there's things that happen in fate, right? And we can never really sort of determine whether it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, right? But actually having the knowledge, because one thing I find with the Magician is he's very knowledgeable. He's the wizard, yeah? And, the way that I always imagine wizards is being sort of like almost quite alone, learning things, never leaving the house, the Magician. It reminds me of that sort of stuff. Maybe I read too much fantasy, but there we go. So regardless of which side of the coin you get, you can always manipulate it and change it, is the message. Now, another thing that I'm seeing is, don't forget, the moon is all about illusions. So you could have been having like sort of trials and tribulations recently, or it could just be that, you know, you're coming across people that are just pissing you off, right? Now, that could have sort of almost left you in the state of mind of thinking, well, you know, if all this is happening and it's negative, then actually maybe my good fortune isn't coming. It's that sort of, it really reminds me of that kind of energy. Now, the weird and wonderful ways of the universe, right, is it's like all my stuff is still breaking. It's all still breaking. I even broke my keyring this morning. It just happened to fall and then just shatter into a million pieces. Now, if you are having things happening, which, you know, I've had my trials and tribulations. I had a lot of trouble a few weeks ago, right? And I was in that illusion. And I was thinking, bloody hell, you know, what have I done to deserve this? I must have done something. Do you get what I mean? And we do instantly sort of victimize ourselves in a bit of a way. I mean, I always make out like I'm a perpetrator when I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I kind of go the opposite way, and I think, well, you know, I'm not going to go into that. It's not for the internet today. But anyway, my point is that I feel as though whatever you have had going on recently that has been in the more negative sort of, and fingers being pointed, right? So clearly arguments have been going on. There's been falling outs. But this is where I love the Magician, because the Magician comes along and out of nowhere, it goes from that to this. And then all of a sudden, all of these blessing stats sort of come trickling in out of nowhere. And then we're like, do you know what? Bugger me, I didn't do anything wrong. It was the universe playing silly buggers with me again. Okay, so I wanted to just... I just wanted to pull a few more, right? Just to really get the picture. Now, we got the Leo card, right? So we've got strength on the bottom. Now, again, this is very interesting. We had the Emperor, and then in between is the Eight of Swords. And then on the other side is the High Priestess. So to me, the first thing that went through my mind was having, you know, like I was saying about those demons, right, that we get, those voices inside of our head that sort of puts in more obstacles than any other human being being able to, is our darker thought processes. You know, we keep ourselves trapped. Nobody can keep us trapped, if you get what I mean. It's the illusions, it's the big illusions that happen, right? So it could be that, you know, between maybe employment and your intuition, there could be that sort of negative thought process that might be getting in the way of you moving into your intuition and into maybe a stable business, whatever it is. But I do think that this is more of a mentality thing than a physical thing, right? And the one good thing about eclipses is it clears. It just clears everything. And that's especially energetically, that I always feel very refreshed after. Even if a load of negative stuff has happened, I always feel refreshed after. So it could be that it's just been such a crazy, I'm not even going to say year. It's the past few years has been a lot for everyone, right? And I think that maybe that might be catching up with you a little bit now, you know, because with the strength on the bottom, it's kind of saying, you know, you need to have the strength to fight these demons, you know, set yourself free for the final time. There's obviously some sort of thought process that needs to go. I'm going to run out of time. Go to the next part.